So you're planning a trip to Lost Lands and you need to know everything that you want to prepare and bring so that you can have the best time possible. Well, I've got the list for you right here. Everything you need to know that they don't tell you on the festival website. Let's get into it. So in my experience, I went camping. I did the easy close camping at Lost Lands in 2021, and I learned a lot about the things that you want to bring to make yourself comfortable, but also a lot of the things that you need to bring into the venue to be comfortable there as well. So this video will be good for people who are even staying in a hotel and shuttling in as well. I'm going to be timestamping everything below so you can see everything sectioned out into whichever group it lays under. The first section that we're going to go over right now is food. So this is definitely going to be a camping one. Food is an essential piece for campers, especially if you're planning on bringing a lot of cooking food and you don't want to, go to the vendors and buy that sort of thing. So with that, obviously you're going to need a cooler and you're going to need a grill, most likely if you want to cook your food. If you're not going to be grilling, you're going to want to buy some snacks. You're going to want to have some things to tide you over in between meals for when you're going to the vendors. Vendors are great to go to because they have really great food and the prices aren't too bad. I mean, you could probably get a meal for somewhere between $12 to $18. If you're buying food from vendors, you're gonna wanna have some food at your tent to kind of tide you over in between. The one best thing that I recommend is bringing anything with protein. So jerky, and any sort of protein bars and things like that to really keep your energy up in between meals so that you can kind of last a little bit longer and wait to go to the vendors when you're ready, when you've, dressed up, when you've had enough drinks at your tent, all that sorts of stuff. And with drinks, I want to get into our next topic, alcohol. Alcohol is another big category for campers. You're going to have to bring in your own alcohol unless you want to just be buying from vendors throughout the whole weekend, which I definitely don't recommend because it can get very pricey, especially inside the venue. But either way, in the camping, it is also pricey. You can bring in 1 pack of beer, seltzer, or a box wine per person into the campgrounds. Now, I don't think they check super hard on this. I'm not going to recommend bringing more, but if you were to bring more, it's not a huge risk since, a 30 pack is about 25, 30 bucks. So it's not a huge risk. Another important piece of bringing alcohol is they don't allow hard liquor. Now, this is a similar situation to bringing an extra pack of beer. If you wanted to throw some vodka into a big jug of water, you may get it in. I know someone who has done that before and it was no problem. They didn't check super hard. Again, I'm not going to recommend it, but if you're going to do that, it's not a huge risk, about 20, 30 bucks. So it may be worth it to you if you feel like doing that. The next section we have is hygiene and skincare and all of those, general things like that. These are really important. You're going to want to bring all of your toothbrush, your body wash, your deodorant. Definitely bring deodorant and all that sort of stuff. You don't want to be that stinky guy in the crowd. But another piece of this is bring sunscreen. Sunscreen is very important because it gets really hot and really sunny at Legend Valley. So you're going to want to be protected all day from the sun. The next piece for hygiene that you're going to want to think about is something that most people don't want to talk about, but wet wipes and toilet paper and that kind of genre of stuff, those are fantastic things to bring. I personally like to bring a small pack of wet wipes into the festival with me. Porta potties can get super disgusting, especially last year in 2021. They have been talking about improvements and cleaning them more often and stocking them up more often, which is fantastic, but you always want to be prepared. So bringing your own toilet paper, just in case other people are taking them or they ran out, it's definitely great to have that just in case. So one last thing to mention with hygiene for girls. So my girlfriend and I went last year and she really wanted to bring her hair dryer and her straightener and her curler and all these things. And she was really worried that they wouldn't have any outlets to plug that in because there's no information about that online. Well, don't worry, they have outlets in all of the showers, at least the showers that we saw. We were in easy close camping, but we weren't in glamping last year, so it was a general shower. Showers are paid, which is something to think about. It's $10 per shower, but when we went, they didn't bring an attendant to the showers until about maybe 9 or 10, so when we went to the showers, between 8 and 9 o'clock, there was no one there, so they just let us go in for free, and we showered for free every single day. And in those showers, they have the plugs, so you can bring all of the electronics that you need to do your hair and that sort of thing. So don't worry. The next section we're talking about is clothes and comfort. There's a lot to talk about in this section because the weather in Legend Valley can vary a lot from night to day, and so there's a lot of things to consider. The number one thing I have to recommend about clothes and comfort is just dress to be comfortable. It's the most important factor, especially because of all of the terrain and the changing weather at Lost Lands. And it's very important to dress comfortably over other festivals because Lost Lands isn't quite as much of a dress to impress festival. It's a dress to enjoy yourself kind of festival. So during the day, it can be really hot at Legend Valley. And with that, you want to be comfortable. So I personally would be wanting to wear shorts and a tank top, and I think I would likely bring a jacket with me. That way I don't have to go back to the campground. Carry it over your shoulders, put it in a backpack, something like that. The other piece of it would be you could wear pants and just suffer a little bit during the day if your legs get cold at night. The second option would be to plan to go back to the campground and pick up your jacket or change into your pants and that sort of thing at night. But the hard part is if you're going to leave at about 6-ish, 7-ish, when the sun starts going down, that's when a lot of people are going to be coming into the festival. So when you change and come back, you are very likely to wait in a much longer line, probably about 40 minutes, maybe up to an hour, depending if you're in general admission. And then VIP, I saw the line when I came back one day last year. It looked pretty darn long, but I would guess you'll probably save maybe 10 minutes, so VIP line will be a little bit faster. The next thing I recommend is to wear comfortable shoes the entire weekend, especially for girls. I know you guys like wearing your platform boots, your big old wedges and that sort of thing. My girlfriend tried it last year and it ended up being a huge pain. The terrain at Legend Valley is very hilly. There's lots of tree branches coming out of the ground, and in general, it's tough to walk. So I would plan almost like you're going on a hike, and to be comfortable for that. While I know it's not the sexiest attire to wear, hiking boots and that sort of thing, just consider that, because my girlfriend brought her platform boots and ended up just wearing her Crocs after we went back to change because, she had these wedges that on the incline, it just gave her really bad blisters, which was totally not worth it. So if you're going to wear platforms and that sort of thing, make sure they fit well, they're comfortable, and that you can handle walking up and down hills in them all day long. The next thing I recommend you bring at Lost Lands is a bandana or a mask or something to cover your face and your nose, because a lot of the areas are super dusty, especially over by Wampy Woods. All of the ground is just dirt, and so when people are dancing, they kick it all up, and then you're going to end up breathing that in, which you don't really want to do. You'll get, gross brown stuff in your nose, you'll be breathing in dirt, and I hate that when that happens to me personally. It just feels gross. So bring a bandana, bring something to cover when you're in those areas. The last couple pieces for comfort and clothing is going to be mainly for campers. The first one's going to be rain boots. I highly recommend bringing rain boots no matter what, just in case. It could rain even if the forecast doesn't say it will. For us in 2021, it rained the day before we got there and kind of sprinkled a little bit on the night of the pre-party. So when it did that, it caused a lot of people to not be able to get their cars in and things like that. But the main thing for us, since we got dropped off, was we had to be walking through a bunch of mud. And I'll show you what that looked like last year. And all we had on at the time was our Crocs. And, yes, Crocs, you can just hose off your feet, luckily, afterwards. But it was really gross. It was really difficult and slippery and that sort of thing. So bringing rain boots and something to walk through mud is the main thing that I really wish I had going into Lost Lands of last year. One of the really shitty things is Jurassic Glamping is right here, and right at the entrance there's just a huge patch of mud going right in, and you'd think paying over $2,000 you'd get a nice clean entry without a bunch of mud, but apparently not. And hopefully they fix that next year and put some like wood slats over it or something. So that's definitely a tip for Lost Lands. The last piece for comfort and clothing would definitely be to be prepared to be cold at night. It gets into the mid to low 50s, maybe even colder depending on the year, and it's really, really cold. So my girlfriend and I brought very big fuzzy socks, sweatpants, thermal pants, sweatshirts, all this stuff to be super warm at night, but unfortunately we were still cold. Our feet mainly were still cold. And that was because when we did easy close camping, they provided us an air mattress and sleeping bag and this sort of thing. And unfortunately, the sleeping bag was about as thin as a tissue. It was so thin, it did not warm us up at all. So you're gonna wanna bring either extra blankets or make sure you have, a thermal sleeping bag that can handle low temperatures so that none of that, cold air can seep in and make you uncomfortable, because you want to have, a good night's sleep before the next day so you can be prepared and have lots of energy. So definitely plan ahead to be cold, to make sure you're not cold at night. The next section we have is tech, and tech is super important even if you're not going to be vlogging. I'll talk about some vlogging things at the end, but in general, there are some tech things that you want to bring just to be prepared. Number one, I would say to bring a big battery charger so that you can have your phone charged all weekend and be prepared to, take all the Snapchats you want, post all the Instagram stories you want, and, be able to have enough juice in your phone to last throughout the weekend. The other piece is you could instead get a charging locker, and I really enjoyed this because, I was able to keep all of my extra electronics in there, potentially if you have a passport or some other valuables that you don't want to leave in your tent. The interesting thing about this is they don't charge your devices inside the locker. Basically, they'll give you a locker and then they'll give you a battery charger. Once you take the battery bank, you can bring it with you. They'll give you a cable, and then once it's fully out of juice, you can take that back. They'll hand you another one and you can just keep charging throughout the whole weekend. And it was only about $60, I want to say, when we did it in 2021. The other piece of this is they're moving where the lockers are to be more convenient. We don't know where they're going to move them, but supposedly it's going to be more convenient and out of the way of foot traffic, which is a plus. Now, before I go on to my next tip, make sure to go down and hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm so YouTube recommends this video to more people searching about lost lands and needing tips to get packed and ready to go. So the next tip is about cell service. You're not going to have any service from about noon throughout the rest of the night. It's going to be impossible to send any texts. So there are a couple things that you can do to make sure you can either be in contact with your friends or make sure you know where your friends are. The first thing would be get a totem. A totem is a great way to be able to identify where your friends are. If you can guess what set they're gonna be at, your totem's gonna be right there. You're gonna be able to see it. The stages aren't too big, and especially if you have a lit totem, it's gonna be so much easier to find your friends. Now, if you aren't someone who wants to carry a totem, that's fine as well. They allow walkie-talkies at Lost Lands, and there's a set of walkie-talkies that I found that actually have a vibrate function, which is very cool. So if you want to call your friend and make sure that they feel the walkie-talkie vibrate rather than hoping that they, hear it, I think that is going to be the best thing to do. And I'm going to try these this year. I haven't done it in the past. I watched a couple videos on how they work, and they should reach plenty far. And apparently the vibrate function is super good. So I recommend that, and I'm going to link it down below. The last tip I want to throw in here is a bonus. I want to recommend a headlamp. So there is very, very little lighting on any of the pathways going back to camp, going back to the shuttles. So at night, it's going to be super dark and a little sketchy to be walking on, potential rocks and tree branches. So you don't want to twist your ankle and then have a rough time for the rest of the weekend. So I definitely recommend getting a headlamp. It'll be very bright. Much brighter than your phone's light. Then it'll be hands-free. You won't have to be carrying it, and it also won't be depleting your phone's battery. So that's it for my tips and recommendations for packing for Lost Lands. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what was your favorite down below, and especially if you have any other tips that I didn't mention, drop those in the comment section below. I'm also going to link the official Lost Lands packing guide in the description, just in case there's some other basic things that I didn't mention that you might want to learn about. So that'll be in the description below. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe for more. We're going to have a lot more informative videos about Lost Lands coming up in the next few months, and especially after Lost Lands 2022. So I hope you're ready for that. Thanks for watching. Peace.